Yeah.
And we're back. Another business conversation. Unfortunately, my partner in crime and very good friend, Peter Doak, can't be here this evening. Don't know what he's up to. We'll better not ask. But we've got the inimitable, I think that's a word, Mr. James Perry, FCA. That means he's a senior member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, as well as all the other fantastic stuff he's up to, as my co-host and pilot this evening. But best of all, for my last, and this is so sad, my last evening on the business conversations. After this, I'm away to university and I'm away mentoring with Enterprise. What did I tell you it was called? I've forgotten now. Enterprise Nation. I'm going to be a mentor for them. And tax season has hit at Gilchrist and Co. So I've run out of evening. So unfortunately, I am giving up my seat with Peter on business conversations. This is the very last evening. And there is no better person I could have for my last evening than the very, very handsome Mr. Kenny Galloway.
I thought you were going to mention James Perry there.
I do a lot of smoke blowing at this stage of the interview to warm everybody up. So anyway, moving swiftly on. Before I introduce Kenny, I want to give you the theme of tonight's conversation. And it's going to be all about the power of partnerships and relationships in a tech-driven world. What a wonderful theme. I'd love to claim the glory for that myself, but it was Kenny who came up with that. So I'm really looking forward to talking about partnerships and relationships in a tech-driven world. And we will start it off by asking Mr. Galloway, tell us who you are. Who are you the man? Not what your job is. Who are you the man? Who's Kenny Galloway?
Sure. So Kenny Galloway is a father, is a mental health advocate, is someone who enjoys helping other people. That's pretty much me in a nutshell. That's what I live for pretty much every day. 2 kids, 2 and 8, literally keep me busy. I have a little daughter, runs rings around me, has me wrapped around her little finger. And the young lad's just a mini me. So God help him if he meets another Martin Gilchrist in his life. and a Mr. Perry at that.
James, if you have a question, I just waited until you picked up your glass of water.
I know Kenny through you as well, Martin, over the last couple of years, and definitely agree with that. We've done a previous conversation regarding mental health and building sort of that resilience network. So maybe that can dovetail slightly into tonight as well in terms of that networking space. One thing that I'm seeing in our profession is the impact of fintech, and especially, the automation of certain aspects of the accounting profession in particular. And my concern, not necessarily concern, but maybe the big topical issue is, what does it do for us accountants in terms of whenever it takes away the numbers game for us? Do we get as involved in the numbers anymore because potentially it could all be automated? So what's our role? You know what I mean? So that's something maybe I'll throw out there for a bit of a debate. But the one question I have for Kenny immediately is, what does Lightyear do?
Very good. Yeah. So Lightyear is very proud to say one of the fastest growing fintech companies in Northern Ireland. We were recently mentioned in an article. Lightyear automates the accounts payable process for finance departments. We automate the purchasing process for finance departments. We've built on a variety of other features such as automatic statement reconciliation, price check features, and a variety of other nice things that really take away the pain, the troubles, and the hassle for accounts payable clerks, for finance managers, and get rid of the data extraction, get rid of the needless need to constantly validate data. Lightyear does all of that for the finance department. We automate a variety of different data streams through an integration of APIs. We work with Sage, Xero, QuickBooks, NetSuite, a variety of the big core accounting solutions. So yeah, in a nutshell, Lightyear is one of the fastest growing fintech companies in Northern Ireland. There we go. A bit of swag ended up on Martin's desk. James, yours is coming. And so yeah, that's Lightyear in a nutshell. Our key goal is to automate as much of the purchasing and accounts payable process as we possibly can.
And what do you do? What does the man Kenny Galloway, because you're going to be an incredibly valuable part of any organization. I'm interested in how Lightyear has harnessed the power that is Kenny Galloway. What are you doing there?
Yeah, typically when people ask me that question, I just say, yeah, I just work in software. I'm quite a modest guy in that sense. For all intents and purposes of this show, the full title, I'm not a fan of titles, is Head of Global or Head of Strategic Partnerships. And that's across US, UK, Ireland, and South Africa. So the role consists of managing relationships with the likes of Sage, Xero, QuickBooks, NetSuite, manage relationships with people that implement those solutions, managing relationships with accountants and bookkeepers, managing relationships with consultants who are focused on digital transformation. So yeah, I'm the relationship guy in the business.
Can I ask one thing though?
Sure.
I know, Kenny, you're not from a finance background, you're from a sales background.
Yeah.
So how do you undertake that research piece to get familiar with an accounts payable integration software to go and talk to these people? How do you do that personally?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, James. Really appreciate that for throwing that at me.
I don't want to know the nitty gritty of an accounts payable.
Of
I want
course.
to know, how do you personally go and research something?
So the process, I've been quite fortunate in the sense that
Apart from calling me the way back.
This is the thing, so I like to understand every single last bit of what I do, no matter what it is. If it's watching football, I want to understand the positions that all the players are playing and why they're playing those positions. If I am going to build a shelf or a car, I want to understand why you put this nail there or why this bolt has to be bolted on there. So I'm naturally inquisitive. I'm naturally curious. Also, going back to 2014, I was on the sort of front line when the cloud first came out, and I was working with Microsoft Dynamics, and I was working with Sage, and selling those products back then. But it was very, very low level sales that I was doing back then. I really didn't understand what I was doing, but I had a bit of a basic understanding. So 2014 really started the learning process a little bit in terms of understanding tech. Fast forward, all those years since then, I've been inquisitive. I like to understand what, like I said, what it is and why it is and how it is and all of that good stuff. But the process of learning and understanding is an arduous task, and it's not for the faint-hearted, and you have to really want to do it. So, for example, as you mentioned, James, you're one of the first people I contacted.
I'm not going to say anything about that.
Well, you're a busy man, Martin, and I'd already hit you enough with other things, so I thought it was James's turn. So,
I got out of that one.
Yeah, very much so. I was very skillful.
That was very good.
So, in terms of that, I spoke with James and I asked him, tell me about the accounts payable process. I don't quite understand it, and have you any points of contact or signposting? And you very, very kindly signposted me to certain things. But I also went in to another accountant who owns a practice that my dad knows. I went and sat with him and I met with him. And when I walked into the place, there was paper everywhere. I mean, I'm talking mountains of paper, like, and even that experience helped me understand why I was doing what I was doing. We wanted to eradicate that. We wanted a paperless environment. But then taking that to the next level, just to sort of finish that off, I started to follow and subscribe to articles that CFOs would subscribe to. And that reading those articles,
and that's where I wanted you to get to. I think it's really good. So just even from, I'm sorry for cutting in, you just want to sort of draw this out in that in terms of a learning style. Are you more along the line of having to ask questions of someone? Is that your first port of call, and then you need to go read around it, or did you go and look up YouTube videos, or did you? What is the mechanics of Kenny's learning style?
Yeah, so the mechanics is you have to live, eat, sleep, and breathe it. Okay, you in an essence, if you want to understand a finance director, you have to become a finance director, right? So you have to go through the process. So even a simple process of getting a Zero or a QuickBooks account and keying in data and looking at reports and doing all of that stuff helped me become you, essentially. And that, so you have to research, you have to understand your customer personas, you have to understand who it is you're actually speaking to, but then you also have to understand what they're actually doing, but then you also have to understand their pains. And then in order to do all of that there, you have to bring all of that together, and research and do and act and think and say as CFOs or finance directors or accountants will say.
Just to change the direction of the conversation a little bit. And one of the things you brought up right at the very start of your introduction of who you are as a person was about the stuff that you've done with mental health and mental wellness. And I was delighted to be asked by you and James to come down to a thing that you did down in Loft Space. We did a recording together. That was a fantastic morning. We had a lot of fun that morning. And it was you were doing a parachute jump for mental health. What a thing to do.
2 years to get that done, by the way, and I did do it.
You got there in the end. Things got in the way. So now you've got this role. It's international. You changes a lot of interactions. There must be politics. There always is. All that type of stuff that goes on in that type of environment is stressful. What are you doing to manage that stress? Because I know it's something that, and James, you sorry to ask the question of both of you. James, you're an academic, you're a business owner, you're a professional. A lot of people rely on you to get them through some of the toughest times of their, and there's a lot of stress with that as well. I'm interested to hear how the two of you deal with that. How do you deal with workplace stress? Kenny, you go first, and then we'll hear what James has to say on that.
Sure. So, very interesting topic. Actually, recently, I took part to become a mental health first aider for the business. So that's a really good thing. Very relevant, actually, Martin. That was a couple of weeks ago. Very, very interesting course. I would recommend, if you're very interested in mental health, first of all, go and do that. And you'll be able to answer this question very, very well. So I know, all jokes aside, for me, my own personal sanity, it's all about connecting with old friends, connecting with people, reminding yourself, doing that to remind yourself of who you actually are, because we live in the business world. Business is a big, 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 massive part of my personality, massive part of my life. I've made a lot of sacrifices over the years, to get to where I am and to achieve what I've achieved. That mentally has been hard. So reconnecting with old friends, reconnecting with your family, but then disconnecting from business completely and taking yourself off. Literally, a couple of weeks ago, me and good friend Richard Duckett, he's actually senior sales manager for a cybersecurity company, so he's in tech as well. We took ourselves off up into Glenara Forest, frying pan, packet of sausages, baps, dug a big hole in the ground,
Box of beer.
No beer, actually, which was good because we're getting a little bit old now and we don't really drink as much anymore. But, that was unreal. And the conversation was a little bit juddery at the start because we hadn't seen each other in a long time.
And there was no beer.
No beer. And we literally just sat on our backsides in the dirt in the middle of this forest, just chatting crap, So that, for me, long-winded, but that's all of the different processes that I would take to manage that stress.
good old-fashioned way of doing it. James, what about you? How do you cope with the trials and tribulations of running your own business and being an academic and having all those people relying on you?
Quite like Kenny's sort of strap line there, talking crap. Or chatting crap.
Chatting crap.
It's a pretty and sometimes there's not a better way of getting stressed out by chatting crap.
Yeah.
Sometimes the simple things are the best. Going with Mr. Gilchrist to Newcastle for fish and chips sometimes is a good way to de-stress. For me personally, everybody knows I'm a massive culture nerd and history nerd, and I love this part of County Down. So I literally go and sit in an ancient monument for an hour, just simply chill out. I went to an ancient monument locally and brought a book. So that's the basic stuff. If you want to go more extravagant, you get in Skyscanner, you go to Vienna for a weekend or something which you can do relatively cheap.
Yeah.
But now, and you know,
sorry, can I stop you there? What's Skyscanner?
Skyscanner is where you get cheap flights, Martin.
Right.
It's brilliant.
Does everybody know that? Am I living under a rock somewhere? Kenny, did you know what Skyscanner was?
Yeah, James, you just opened a whole new world for Martin. God help us all.
Skyscanner's fantastic. Literally can just, for any date, if you type in Dublin or Belfast and just go anywhere, the destination anywhere, it will tell you anywhere for any cheap flights for any point in time. So you can do that. You can do that as well. You know, I was in Vienna last weekend or 2 weekends ago, sorry, and I've got a hypnotherapy tune, and I literally walked about Vienna for hours on end with this hypnotherapy tune on repeat, visiting fantastic places, and that unbelievably de-stresses me because the conscious mind I find switched off.
Yeah.
And stop overthinking, and it just do and see and enjoy.
Yeah. Very good.
So you can have the extravagant by going foreign. The other thing you go do with Kenny, so do go somewhere secluded, go and bring a friend and chat crap.
Fantastic. And I think those are the simple things. And you know, I couldn't add anything to that. I don't have any wonderful, you know, academic strategy for dealing with stress. It literally is, we all know who our friends are, or those people that you can talk to, you can tell them almost anything, and you usually already have.
Yeah.
And do you know what? One thing I'd like to just throw out there, actually, just a valid point. We often say to people, how you doing? What's your first reaction to that? Yeah, fine. One thing I'll say, and to people listening to this, I think very, very important in this day and age, when you ask that question, ask it with conviction, and really, really ask it, you know, how are you doing? Is everything okay? You know, reframe that question, and you might find out that somebody's struggling. So just to take this opportunity, this platform, you know, mental health is a big thing. We're chatting about it. You know, when you ask that question, ask it with conviction and maybe reframe it to get the true answer, because you might just help somebody. So we'll leave that there.
I was down in the Stormont Hotel meeting a new client. This person was like way up in UTV. He was like an ex-chief executive of UTV, and he's doing other stuff now, consultancy stuff now. And funny enough, we were talking about this subject, the stress of those type of roles. And I was telling them a story. Kenny, that thing where you ask the question, you know, sometimes you don't know. I've seen situations where I've been sitting in the Stormont Hotel and a client has walked in, sat down at the table across from me, and burst into tears. I knew, I knew this person was struggling. Like it was without doubt. The question is, I wasn't sure what to do. What do you do in that situation if you ask somebody, how are you? And they break down, or they actually tell you, look, I'm not okay. If you're not a trained professional, what's the steps you take there, Kenny?
That's very, very interesting. I would say first thing is to listen. You know, just listen. Human beings, we are natural problem solvers. We want to solve every bloody problem in the world. That's what we do. That's what we're designed to do. And, you know, don't try to solve this problem. The person has a problem, but just listen. And, you know, be there for them and let them vent and let them talk, let them cry. And, once I've done that, are you okay? Do we need to get you help? Is it serious? Are you having bad thoughts? Ask those questions. And you might just help somebody. Don't be we pussyfoot around those questions a lot, guys. So just ask the question, just come out with it, and you never know, you might help somebody. But I'd like to bring that all back to the title, actually, Martin. Relationships.
Partnerships and relationships.
This is what we're talking about here, and what have been talking about is relationships, guys. We're three blokes sitting here able to talk about this stuff, asking each other questions. We have
Publicly?
a really publicly. We have a really, really good relationship. And that started off as a business relationship, right? I now class you guys as friends. So we have been able to take the last 4 or 5 years and slowly, slowly, slowly build a relationship. And it was like what an old sales director said to me whenever I was like, when you're dating a girl, do you just go straight in and kiss her and, like, or do you take her on a date? Do you take her for a coffee? Do you tell her she's beautiful? Do you buy her flowers? You know, that in essence, and anybody who's courted a girl, man, woman, non-binary, whatever it is, you know, that is in essence how business relationships start, you know. So that's really, really nice. And I would bring that all full circle, everything we've talked about. Going out for a friend, going out for a chat with a friend, clients coming in, you talking to them, you going out to Vienna and coming back.
James, I don't know about you. James,
know.
I don't know about you, but Kenny never bought me flowers, and he's still to tell me that I'm beautiful.
Well, I was gonna wait there and just and to say it's the first time I've heard the word courted being used in a very, very long time. I thought that was my dad talking. I just courted her way back in the 1960s. One thing I was gonna say, good old Kurt there, boys, good old Kurt. One thing I was gonna say about the personal situation, I was gonna ask this question later on, but I think Kenny's made it quite a good point. So one question I was gonna ask, I'm not gonna ask it now, but I'm just gonna put that statement out there. I was gonna say, Kenny, if you're given a task, go and talk to a new target in terms of here's a software provider in a location. How do you broach that first interaction? But I'm going to back that up with the question that you were asking, Martin, in terms of if someone broke down in front of you, what would you do? And the one word that sprung to mind was rapport. How can you quickly build a bit of rapport? And you can do it in both those instances. So it's very interesting. Actually, I had a friend of mine that was in the house literally 1 hour ago and broke it to me that he was a compulsive gambler and he's going to Gamblers Anonymous.
Fantastic.
And whenever he was a wee bit ropey an hour ago, and I went to myself, well, in 2015, I went through a lot of stuff too and built that sort of commonality. So that's the one thing I would say. We're evolving through crop in this lifetime. So if you can build that little bit of commonality. But then just to knock it down to the business sense, you are plunked in a meeting, Kenny, with a brand new person that you've never spoke before. How do you build rapport?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're going to have situations in your life where you're going into a meeting, you haven't met the person, but you know who they are. You have tools available that you can go in and you can look at what they like, what they share. You can look at the posts they put up. You can look at their blogs. You can look at their articles.
LinkedIn profile.
Yep. So there's a lot that you can do if you haven't met them, but you know who they are.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be false, okay? You don't want to, you don't want to pick something and then pretend that that's what you like. That's lies, and you have to have values, you have to have morals about how you approach that. But if you find something that you really like, or if you find something that you want to learn more about, then go and talk to them about it. Break the ice, have a coffee, typical business etiquette, how you doing? Really nice to meet you. Tell us a wee bit more about yourself. I'll tell you a bit about me. Here, listen. I hope you don't mind me saying this. You know, I've done a wee bit of research on you, and I found this article really interesting. You know, you read this four years ago. Can you tell me a bit more about it? Is it still relevant now? You know, take an interest in them. You know, ask them questions. Don't talk about yourself a lot. Again, go back to the dating scenario. If you're sitting talking about yourself too much, what's going to happen? They're like, this guy's full of himself. Who the hell do you think he is talking to me about himself this much? You know, so be polite and just talk to people. A good book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Fantastic book. You know, a man's name is the key to everything. Like, if you put a man's name, if you build a house and you say, Mr. James Perry, this is going to be called the Perry Cathedral, how's that going to feel? You're going to feel unreal.
It's St. Perry's Cathedral.
Oh, right. Yes. You know,
Well, mine's is going to be King Gilchrist's Castle. So anyway,
There's
here's a thought.
There's plenty of St. Martin's knocking about.
you know,
Here's a thought. When people have this impression I'm good at networking. I'm not good at networking. I'm no better.
You're awful modest, Martin. You really are.
I am. I'm just waiting for a compliment. I'm fishing for a compliment there. But anyway, one of the most important things, if someone's coming towards me in a networking event, one of the things that will immediately make a fantastic impression on me every time that anyone can do is smile at me when they look at me. Have that attitude of positivity and of, you know, the thing about a smile is you go to somebody with a smile, you're a little bit vulnerable, because if they're a bit of an idiot or just not in a good form, you turn up all smiley and they're rude to you, you're left hanging. It's like a high five, left hanging. Somebody, if you smile at someone and they don't smile back, it's got off to a bad start right away. But there was a guy called, actually, will I say his name? No, I'll not say his name because he hasn't given me permission to tell this story. But he told me about, and I've told this story before, about mirror neurons. And mirror neurons is about the ability to read somebody's mind. And if you want to, and actually to an extent, control somebody's mind, we all have these ways of manipulating people, not in a bad way, in a positive way. But one of the ways you can test this empathy theory, or this how important a smile is the next time you're talking to someone, if you're in a conversation with someone and they're not smiling, smile at them. Just lighten your face. The way my smiley face is now, just smile at them and watch their faces. They will automatically smile back and they will automatically feel positive. So if you before you even start the conversation, you're smiling at someone, not in an idiotic type of way, but in a natural way, I'm coming over to speak to you because I want to, that gets them into a positive frame of mind and a receptive frame of mind before you say the first word.
There's so much I could talk about this about. This is just a treasure trove of stuff.
Isn't it?
There's a load of things here. First of all, the best.
So let me stop that just 2 seconds, right? So this is very, very relevant. And I'm going to put you on the spot here, lads, because this will help sum this up. So, James, we'll go to you first and then we'll come to you, Martin.
Yeah.
Your top 3 tips for building a relationship. And Martin, your top 3 tips after.
Okay. And I'm going to take, for the first 2, I'm going to take the chicken's way out and repeat what was being said, but give a couple of examples of it. Number 1, remember somebody's name, which I'm rubbish at, but apparently Bill Clinton was the master of it. Bill Clinton, how to build charisma is to address someone by their name. Clinton was the master. The second one is the smiling thing, and the master of doing that was my late father. He, so most people will say hello first and then smile. My dad automatically didn't have a clue he was doing this, smiled first and then said hello and automatically built rapport. The third thing is the body language thing, and it's a very subconscious bit. And I'm just going to say this for the people who's listening: look out for what's called the satir categories, SATIR. And if you look out for the satir categories, it gives examples. And American presidents come out. So if you look at the different body languages of Trump versus Obama versus Clinton versus Biden, for example, versus Bush, it's incredible the different characters doing different things. So even things like the mechanics of Donald Trump's tie, why did it break the belt line? It was to show masculinity. That was intentional. Done my head in. That was intentional. His handshake, whenever he grabs someone and pulls it in, that was for dominance. So just to touch on what Martin was saying regarding smiling, it's a thing called matching and mirroring. If someone is grumpy, or if somebody is cross, or if someone has got their arms folded or whatever, or someone is smiling, you match and mirror that automatically builds rapport. So there's my top three.
Okay.
Yourself, Martin.
The first thing is you have to do something. So basically the question is, how do you build connections? Okay. The first thing is you have to do something with people. And the way I've built connections with you, Kenny, and with you, James, is that we've done stuff together in the real world and online. We're doing something right now. We're creating a broadcast that's going to be seen by other people, and other people will learn from this and enjoy it and have a laugh along with us. And through the process of that, they'll get to know us. So people who don't know us from Adam will get a sense of who we are through this conversation. That's the first thing. Find ways to do so. It doesn't matter whether it's climb a mountain or go out for a coffee or help James, I don't know, sit and enjoy his new window he's getting put into his house tonight. All that good stuff. Do something. The second thing is invite people to stuff. We're all social animals. And there's nothing better than James coming down and saying, Martin, I'm heading out with, what do you call the guy from Cork?
Andy Codd.
Andy Codd. Remember the day you invited me down to Newcastle just for lunch? How good do you think you made me feel that day? How good did I feel? I was actually, I felt like, oh, I'm important. I'm getting to meet Andy Codd, and James has invited me. And Kenny, I hope that you felt good when I invited you to come and join me on this evening. I hope that you felt valued and worthwhile and part of my, thing that's going on. The person I believe is credible and valuable and interesting. I wouldn't have invited you. Like if you were boring and a bit of a prat, I wouldn't have asked you. But you're a really nice guy. I know you're a nice guy. So invite people to do stuff, to invite to things. And the final thing is never be afraid to ask for something. Because you know what? Most people are generous when they're given the right opportunity. Not take advantage of people. I would never take advantage of someone by asking them for something that they didn't want to give. But if there's something, Kenny, I asked you to come along here this evening. James, the number of times I've asked you to help me out as well, and you've always stepped up, and hopefully out of being able to step up, you've benefited from those things.
Absolutely.
You thought, yeah, Martin asked me for a favor, and you know, I stepped up and I was able to help him, and hopefully you felt good or something productive or something like that as well. So if you do those three things, so if you do stuff with people, if you invite people to things, and if you ask them to do stuff for you, they are good fundamentals for starting to build relationships that just get stronger and stronger.
But one thing as well, Martin, and I absolutely agree with that, it's got a fancy title, the law of reciprocity. But the other way is what goes around comes around. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you're fantastic at that. And even like, thank you both as well. You're both going to feature and help me out with lectures in uni. What goes around comes around. Yeah. If you generally be a good person, people will generally be good back to you. The other quick thing I want to add on, for anybody listening as well, tell stories. And I think in this part of the world, we're brilliant at it. It's probably in our DNA. Mm-hmm. You know, the good old concept of the Irish, what we call Shonaghy, the storyteller.
Yeah.
That has been hotwired in our DNA. We're great in telling stories. And the other thing as well, and I remember I had an English boss that came across to take over in a firm that I worked for. And he couldn't believe the way the business meetings worked in this part of the world, which was, if you're going to have a half an hour business meeting, 15 minutes was crack, was stories, was building rapport, was asking about the family.
Only 15 minutes?
Well, okay, 25 minutes here, Martin.
Yeah.
And then the 5 minutes of getting down to business, and it was done pretty quick and pretty efficiently. That is where what we're quite good at in this part of the world, I think.
Yeah. And you know, French people, if you send an email to the French and you don't say hello, how are you doing? you may forget about them getting a
Completely agree.
response
Completely
because
agree.
you'll not get a response from them.
Hmm.
You know, and that's rapport. That's etiquette. You know, I want you to ask me how I'm doing because that's respectful. But one thing I'd like to pull this all together, and this is actually going to, we've done this really nicely, lads. We're very fluid. All of that equals trust.
Mm.
Every single bit of that is a little piece of the puzzle that brings it all together to say, Martin, I trust you. James, I trust you. And I do, because we've done so many things together. I know who you are. I know that you're credible. I know that if I have a problem, I can come and talk to you because I trust you with it. If I had only met you yesterday, Martin, or I only met you yesterday, James, wouldn't probably trust you as half of what I do now. Let's be honest, because I don't know you. I wouldn't know who you are. Don't know where you came from. Don't know you from Adam. So, in the world of tech and in the world of partnerships, trust is the biggest currency. The biggest currency.
There's a couple of ways to go through it. I'm not going to go spiritual, but
Yeah.
in religion, they would say, do unto others as you want done unto yourself. But the best way of putting it, and a thing out there, if one of people read this book, it's by a guy I think called James Kerr. It's called Legacy. And it's the leadership, it's the leadership lessons of the All Blacks. And
Brilliant.
apparently in every single changing room, and I don't know if I can say this in this podcast, but I'm going to say it.
But then
anyway.
don't say it.
No,
Don't say. I know what you're like.
I'm going to say it. It's not going to be that bad, but it is in this book, and it's what the All Blacks put into every single changing room they go into, no matter if it's training or a match. They've got to sign.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. And I think it's
Yeah.
a pretty decent mantra.
Do you know that's
If you don't be a dick, that's a pretty decent mantra to go and build rapport with other people.
it's so
And it's as
true.
crude as it sounds, it's true.
Yeah, I think it is true. Here's a thought, though. So the topic of the theme of this evening's conversation, I'm going to change it to don't be a dick. Well, the power of partnerships and relationships in a tech-driven world. Why do we still have to meet up face to face for that coffee if we can do it on here? Now, I'm going to give one thought, but I'd love to hear what you guys have. So we're looking at each other. We're talking. We could almost be in the room together. The sound's good. We can see each other. We can see gesticulations and all this type of stuff. Why do we need to meet up in the real world? And here's one of the reasons I think. See, when we're sitting on here, right? We're looking at ourselves. Tell the truth. See, when you're sitting and I'm talking, you're looking at you. I'm looking at me.
Background and stuff like that. You're 100%
and stuff like that there. You don't have, you can see yourself and it distracts you a bit from the person and all that empathy and mirror neurons. So it's going on to an extent, but it's been filtered or it's been clothed or it's been cut off a little bit because of this thing where you can see yourself talking. It's a distraction from the other person that you don't have. When you're sitting in a coffee shop or you're talking, you're at a networking event or whatever that may be, and you're talking to that person, all you can see is them when they're talking to you. Unless you're distracted and you're looking across someone else, which you should never do. That's one of the problems with Zoom calls and all these other tech things. So that's my thought on one of the problems. Why do we need the real life?
Well, if you look at it, Martin, from a personal standpoint, the absolute relief whenever lockdown ended, because you could actually go somewhere. And I know some people still wear masks, which is fine, and that's their thing. But for me, face masks was awfully destructive, in my opinion. For me, why? Because you couldn't see somebody. You know, you're walking past someone like a zombie, and you were afraid to talk to them and all that. I thought that was very, very destructive for us humans who do want to have that social interaction. And you even have to be touchy-feely and, even be pat somebody's back or shake hands or whatever. We're built on all that. So I completely agree. We're built on social interaction face-to-face.
Yeah. There's certain behaviors, movement, body language, atmosphere that you just don't get on a Zoom call, on a video call. And I'm a big advocate for this. For example, I'm sitting talking to you now in a hotel room in London. And the reason being,
I thought you were in Belfast. What are you doing over in London?
I'm in London. And this is the reason why.
Right. Okay.
I do a lot of business in the mainland UK. A lot of the partners that we work with in the mainland UK, introductory calls are typically done through videos, through phone calls. How you doing? Okay, this is what we do. This is what you do. This is where the cohesion is. We fill this gap that you don't facilitate, and you fill this gap that we don't facilitate. So this makes sense. This is like the pieces of the puzzle coming together. So it really makes sense for us to work together. Okay, now we've had a chat about this. I think it's going to be a really good idea for us to meet in person. And why? Why do I want to meet someone in person? Because I can take them out for a coffee. We can chat offline. We can, as I say, chat crap, and we can talk about life. And I can get the feeling from them. I can see their body language. I can build the trust that I need to build with them, and they can build that trust in me. So the person to person, human to human connection is essential in life and in business.
Why, Kenny?
Because
Why is food important? One of the things we do in Gilchrist and Co is about 2 or 3 times a year we organise meetings over dinner. So you've been there a couple of times. And as a matter of fact, we go
what you do in Gilchrist and Co is you eat out many times a week.
You should see our entertainment budget. It's absolutely great. Thousands and thousands. And there's only 2 of us that are out doing it. But we at least 2 or 3 times a year we organise something. And Kenny, you were at the
I've been doing them.
10 Good Men. James, you've been to these dinners as well. I think that's a fantastic way to connect with people, to break bread with them, to sit down and eat food and converse and share, drink and laugh and tell stories. What is the difference between doing it with food or coffee or a scone or whatever than just not, standing in a cool room? But why does that make a difference, do you think? James?
Oof, that's a hard question.
But it does make a difference. I'm not just
we could probably go right back to caveman days out there. There's the good old what do you call them? The hierarchy of needs.
Maslow's
hierarchy. Maslow, aye.
Yeah.
And it's all this psychological profile, what's the pyramid
water,
of
the basic needs, the water,
that is certain. I think the highest need, I think, self-actualization, which I think self-improvement. But I think it's all in the stages of needs, and I think we all need food, we all need social interaction, we all need that. The one we think, and then further over to Kenny, that's just struck me is you need a bit of crack. You have, and to caveat this for people who don't know what that means, you need to have a laugh. Right? And just to clarify that, you need to have a laugh. You do. Look at our conversation now; it's interjected with laughs.
Yeah,
a wee bit of a joke or a wee bit of a quip or whatever else. That's so important, in my opinion. Again, something that we do brilliantly in this part of the world, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Kenny?
I think what I would bring this to today's age, the world of technology, the world of social media. Why do we like social media? Why do we like getting a like? Why do we hit that button and a heart? Why do we show emotion? It's because we're human, and the brain is wired with endorphins and dopamine and chemicals, cortisol, serotonin. The brain is wired with all of these. And when you ask me, Martin, do I want to come and do this? And I say yes. But known to you, there's something going on inside your brain. When you ask James today, did he want to come and do this? But known to James, there's something going on inside his brain. You know what? And we will never admit it because it's in our heads, and we don't want to say I'm in power, I have the will, and I said yes. But in actual fact, those chemicals in your brain said yes. Let's do this because I like this. This is what I want to do. There's a good documentary I would actually recommend watching it, and it's scary. It's called The Social Dilemma, and it's all about social media. And one thing that I took from that, back 20 years ago, we never were able to actually have a data point and quantifiable data on emotion. Wow, how that has changed. Every time you hit a smiley face, Every time you hit a heart, every time you hit a thumbs up, that's a data point for emotion. So we now actually live in an age where these big corporates can actually say, I can tell that this person 90% of the time has this emotion. And that is how they can control your behaviors and
Which is
your
quite
mind.
scary. Which is
Yep.
quite scary.
Which is a little bit crazy, putting it out there, not to scare people. Watch The Social Dilemma. Amazing.
Oh, what can I fire out another suggestion for somebody people to watch? I think we're giving loads of references here for people to take on board. Now, this program is rough. I'll have a health check in terms of the language and some of the stuff that's said, but underneath it all, I think it's written unbelievably well for talking about emotions. That's Afterlife. Have you ever seen that on Netflix?
Yeah.
Written by Ricky Gervais.
Unreal.
It's incredible talking about emotions and seeing how they've acted it out and how the different things play out in the different scenarios. And maybe it's quite apt for me at the minute, the way I'm feeling about certain things. But once you get through some of the crude language and the crude scenarios, it's so poignant. So definitely get a look at Afterlife on Netflix.
Here, Kenny, I'll have to look that up when once again Netflix. But Kenny, you're in London right now. James, you're just back from Austria or
Vienna.
I don't know, Vienna. You know, you're an international man in mystery between the
Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, plus, but so you guys have travel and with work and for pleasure. But if you could pick anywhere in the world, because with tech and the way we work now, I could work anywhere. I don't. I always work within about 20 miles where I live, so I'm not that type of person. I can travel around the world, but with work, I could literally take my laptop and work from anywhere in the world. You guys probably could as well. But if you could choose anywhere in the world to work and live and work, where would that be, Kenny? Where would you take yourself and your career to? If that could be anywhere.
I'm quite fortunate. Lightyear has an office in Sydney, so I'd be out in Sydney if I had my way. I have a family here, I have kids here, so that's not going to happen. But I'll actually want to flip that. And there's places I want to travel. There's places I actually want to see with my kids. I want to take my young lad, and from he was no age, I've told him, one, we're going to the Amazon forest. Two, we're going to see the pyramids. And three, we're going to the Arctic. If I go to those three places in my lifetime with my son, I will die a happy man.
Wow. Happy days. James, have you been to all those places yet?
I've been to the outskirts of the Amazon, in Peru. I have been I've been in the Great Pyramid twice, and the Pyramid of Khafre. Khafre's the middle one once. Where's the Arctic? No, I haven't been to the Arctic. But funny if I want to go to Antarctic because it's the other continent.
Yeah.
I fancy
for me, Rome, in my opinion, is the best city in the world, closely followed by Vienna. To see the magnitude of something spectacular in every street corner, both of those places, I would strongly suggest. Egypt as a country, I was very lucky to be in Egypt twice, but to do a full tour of the country in 2018, and I'm an Egyptaholic. I even got a certificate in ancient Egyptology from Oxford University. You didn't know that one, Martin, did you?
I did. I knew that already. There's a lot I know about you, James.
Believe it or not, I have that. But on a good day, in my opinion, the most beautiful, magical, best country in the world with the most special people in the world, on a good day if it's dry, is Ireland.
I agree, actually.
Yeah.
Island that we live on is stunningly beautiful, with fantastic people, with an unbelievably rich culture and heritage. If only there was a roof on the place.
20% of the time, it's the most beautiful country in the world.
360 days of the year, it's wild.
Yeah, we're not doing tourism, man. Any favors here?
Yeah. So, Kenny, the time is running down. You must start these things, and we know we have an hour until 9 o'clock. And you think an hour is going to last forever, and you blink, and it's already almost over. And I don't want to get past it without asking the most important question of all. But I don't know what your most important question is. What question should we have asked you that we haven't, and what would your answer be?
So, very good in terms of the way you positioned that. I would say I want to throw a question at you. Want you to answer the question, and then I'm going to give you what the new style is in the world at the minute. So it's around partnerships. It's around what I'm doing at the minute. It's around what I'm passionate about right now. So you two guys have been in finance, accounting for longer before I was even born.
30
Probably.
years.
Yeah. We'll not get there. Start giving people my age. But so you have been about in a sense. You've seen the very first ever Sage system come about. You've now
Martin will
seen,
see, not me.
yeah.
I was
And
on the old green screen computers. Do the ones anyway.
yeah. And then you've seen QuickBooks, and you've seen these big ERP systems come around. And they were the end all and be all. They did everything, absolutely everything that a business needed. How have you seen things change in the finance world over the last 5 years?
Do you want me to go first? Yep. Okay.
You go on, sorry, this morning.
I'll tell you something. Maybe not the last 5 years, but certainly in the last 10 years. Gilchrist & Co. is a very successful chartered accountancy practice with a very niche market, so professionals and independent practice. This practice could never have been grown and existed 20 years ago, even 15 years ago. 10 years ago, we wouldn't be able to make the income or the revenue that we make now. And it's based off the back of software that if we'd been buying it 20 years ago would have cost £50,000 or £80,000 with £5,000-6,000 a year licenses. Now we wouldn't spend £5,000-6,000 a year on all our licenses put together. It's still a lot of money, but it's not anywhere near what we would have needed. Now we've got free video calling. I can remember when video calling first came in and they were getting it set up and down in one of the offices. I think it was KPMG or someone had to put it in a big room with a big screen, and it was all this, and nobody ever used it.
Yeah.
It cost a fortune, and it sat there because everybody was afraid of it. Now we use it all the time without even thinking about it for free. So that's one thing. The cloud-based SaaS technologies. When I was at university, I went on the 25K Awards program with a piece of software that was essentially it was cloud accounting software for barristers before there was cloud accounting software. I just always wonder, why can't you have that accounting software that's just updated on the web? Why do you have to take a disk and put it in the computer and bag it up on the disk when we've got internet banking? And I was sort of laughed out of the place. Well, I wasn't laughed out of the place, but nobody really took it seriously. 3 or 4 years later, Xero came out, and I went, "That's my idea! That's my idea! They stole it." But Xero did what I wanted it to do, and it revolutionized the world because it meant that everybody came out of university that was used to logging into their accounts, that was used to using online software. When they went to start in business, they wanted to use these cloud technologies. And if we could use cloud technologies and they were using cloud technologies, it made our lives so much better. So what has it done? It's absolutely changed the world. Absolutely changed to the point that we can't go back.
Yeah.
If somebody came along tomorrow and said, "Right, we're shutting down the internet,"
your practice would be
we'd all be stuffed. It doesn't matter if it's accountancy, if it's law, if it's painting windows, we would all be stuffed because we are now all in this world.
The power of technology has enabled you as a business professional. So, James, over to you.
Let me talk about it from the educational standpoint, because that's what I sort of cover off with not only my university role, but also with my private clients in terms of dealing with exams and then also career development as well. So let me talk about it from that standpoint. The big thing with the tech is that it was never in the curriculum whenever I was doing accountancy exams. Not really, not at all. You learned off your tax rules, you learned off a load of accounting standards and a load of models and frameworks and things like that. Where now the concept of big data and how that comes into play, crypto, blockchain, that's all in the syllabus now. Fintech is a hugely credible employer now in our space. I get fintech people coming into uni to give talks, obviously, mentioned to yourself. Other things that come on the curriculum that was never heard tell of, ESG, environmental, social, governance, sustainability, all these things are coming in that was never heard tell of. So the curriculum and what And then just a touch on AI coming in and doing the job of accountants for us. When Martin's talking about all that software and all, and blockchain backing a lot of that up. Our role as accountants will change. I'll even suggest, will the title accountant be even about in 10 years' time? Will we all be called business partners? Because what Martin, probably you have to do, and if you're working as an accountant, as a business partner within a business, you don't have to necessarily do the numbers anymore, but you have to interpret and advise and have conversations back to building that rapport piece.
So
Very good.
that's interesting. So Martin's point is it's made your business possible. It's enabled you as a business professional. Your point, James, is it's changing the way the accounting profession actually reports on data. It's
Yeah, well,
changing.
and also it's went, okay, you have to go and invest in the systems, but you as an individual, as an accountant, has to grow as a person, because you actually have to go and have conversations now. You have to get in from behind the screen. FinTech will do that for you and have conversations about it.
This is an important piece. So the way the world has changed now, you used to have these big ERP systems, big accounting systems, and they did everything and anything. What these businesses now realize is they're really, 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 really good at the accounting piece, the data piece, the automation piece, but there's other elements that they're not good at. And that's where I come in, that's where our business comes in, and that's where other businesses like us come in. We're really good at accounts payable. There's businesses out there that are really good at accounts receivable automation. There's businesses out there that are really, really good at automating the financial close. You know, there's all these little other businesses that now plug into these core financials. And the reason being, I mean, there's a couple of those big software companies out there. I'll have to be agnostic. There's lots of them, but they're starting to build marketplaces. The reason why they're building marketplaces is they know that they can do this good, but they can't do everything. They don't have the resource, they don't have the time. So what they're now doing is they're creating marketplaces and they're giving customers choice. They're saying, Mr. Customer, there's 4 accounts receivable people out there that you can go and speak to, have a chat with them and make your own choice. But that was at the very, very start of partnerships. What's happening now is it's now segmented. So you've got small business technology stack, you've got a mid-market technology stack, you've got an enterprise technology stack. So that's, you've got your marketplace, you've got your stacks, but then you can drop that down to another layer, which is verticals. So you've got a stack for hospitality, you've got a stack for construction, you've got a stack for manufacturing. So what these big businesses now realize is we used to just go and get everybody and tell everybody that, yeah, this works for that. But what they realize is there's some solutions that actually don't work very well in certain sectors. So they're now getting them to be verticalized and segmented. And this is where people like yourselves or big accounting practices now, what they're doing is they're splitting themselves. Ernst & Young, perfect example, recently announced that they have a digital advisory arm and they have a standard practice. They split them out. And that, when you take that and you look at that, that's the way the world is going. And this digital advisory arm is now focused on developing relationships and partnerships with people like us and other apps and other tech stacks because they know it's important for business. So that's partnerships, that's
Brilliant.
relationships.
And on that note, you've rounded up very well. 9 o'clock. We've hit the deadline. We'll have to stop. I could sit here another 2 hours. You know, a wee whiskey and a cigarette. It'd make for a nice evening.
What was the good old advertisement that used to be on TV? The Hamlet advert. Remember Hamlet?
Yeah.
The mild cigar.
Yeah. Can you imagine the 3 of us sitting here in mild cigars?
A tweed jacket puffing away in the Hamlet.
I'm just trying to get over the fact of that image in my head of Martin Gilchrist. That's
Anyway, on that note, before we go, I just very, very briefly, Kenny, tell us how do we get you? If somebody's looking to get a hold of you, where are you and how do they get you?
So 9 times out of 10, you're going to get me on LinkedIn. All over it. It's my platform. It's my baby. Absolutely love it. Send me a message. Connect with me. Anything you want at all. I'm really interested to speak with other people in finance, really interested to speak with accountants and bookkeepers who manage mid-market to enterprise clients. Let's talk. We can certainly do amazing things in the world.
Brilliant. So it's Kenny Galloway at Lightyear on LinkedIn. James, where do we find you if anybody wants to reach out and get some of the good stuff?
Exactly the same. LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
James Perry, accountancy exams or accountancy career development. I'll pop up.
Guys, thank you very much. There is another evening and it's just flown in. When I finish these things off, I have to mention the fact that Peter Doak from PDG Advertising isn't here this evening. This is actually Peter Doak's baby. Business Conversations is his thing. He invited me to come along, and I've been on the journey with him now for this is the 18th program, and unfortunately he couldn't be here this evening. I'm very, very sad that he wasn't here because he would have brought an awful lot to the table as well. But Peter will be uploading this to the Business Conversations channel on YouTube. And if you haven't seen all of it, or if you want to go back and watch it, you can certainly watch it there. If you've seen it and you thought it's good, share the channel or share the video. Let everybody see Kenny and James, and hear the crack that we've had here tonight. And the final thing I would say is go and give them a wee subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. I think I'm not sure, is it up there? Wherever it is on the LinkedIn channel. Subscribe to his wee channel and support it, because these things can only work if there's people showing an interest, if there's people coming along and watching and stuff. And on that note, by the way, Kenny and James, don't disappear right away when I stop the recording. Hang about. But to everyone else, have a good evening.
Good night.
Cheers.